All right, friends, here we are. Here we go. It is another edition of the Matt Murphy Radio Show underway for another day this Tuesday, May 28, 2024. Let's get it started. I'm woefully underprepared to begin the show because I spent the entire duration of the cross, not the cross that you hear. You know, let me allow you to peek behind the curtain here. So, you know, we have live and local conversation going on all day long, starting at 5 a.m. with Dan Mandis and running until 7 p.m. with Brian Wilson in the Drive. And then there's Mark Levin and what is his name? Oh, Shapiro. And I think Matt Walsh is on for an hour, and then Red Eye Radio, and then we started all over again. Now, absent holidays like yesterday, we're here for you every single day, diving through the news of the day, dissecting it, giving our opinions on it, and hearing from you and getting your opinions as well. And normally, you know, I have my conversation with Chris Hand as we have our conversation with Brian Wilson, as Chris and Dan have their conversations, as we call that, in the business, that's called the cross. That's right. By the way, hey, Mason, nice to see you.
Hey, Matt.
What's going on? You doing okay?
I'm doing all right.
All right. Have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was
Did
busy.
you get one day off?
No.
When's the last time you had a day off?
I think it was 2 weeks ago. So not last week, the week before.
Occasionally you get one?
Yeah, it happens every once in a while.
How old are you? If you don't mind
26.
my asking. 26. Yeah, it's good for you.
26.
Man, I didn't have a day off at 26 either. That's good for you.
Yeah,
Good for you.
working as much as I can.
Grind every day.
I'm trying.
Keep grinding. Keep going. Okay, anyway, more on that in a
bills to
moment.
pay and whatnot.
Mason
Yeah.
Fleming is behind the glass making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as possible because Belkay has what? Decided not to come back to work, I guess?
Slacking off, I guess. I don't know. He won't tell me anymore. He won't answer my calls.
I mean, is he going to bother to come in this week, I guess?
I would hope so. I'm not supposed to be here tomorrow.
Are you not here tomorrow?
I'm not here tomorrow.
All right, well, let's hope that means the return of Belkay. One
Fingers
way or the other.
crossed. Otherwise,
Happy to have you with us.
Jeff will take over, right?
Oh, yeah. Is he, by the way, young Jeffrey doing a good job, huh?
Yeah, he's doing really good. He ran most of Chris Hand's show today. I heard good things.
I thought about, I heard good things as well.
Yeah.
I thought about a nickname for Jeff.
Ooh.
You know, I can't help myself but to try to nickname things. You know, we call Belkay Headless Bell because he refuses to appear on the television side thing. I haven't really given you, I've thought of your nickname, by the way.
I'm nervous now. I was like, the only one I've heard from is from Pamela Fur, and I'm glad those didn't stick.
What was that?
They're going to
disappear into the ether.
Okay, I'm not bringing those back.
I don't remember what they are.
Yeah.
Her nickname is the Redheaded Stranger for me. All right. Your nickname, should I tell you what I thought?
For me or for Jeff
For
first?
you.
What popped into your long locked head?
Chewie.
Chewie?
Yeah.
Is like Star Wars? Mm-hmm. Like Chewbacca?
Yeah, because you're large and you're hairy and you like Star Wars.
And I'm the second in command on the show whenever I fill in.
It was either Chewie or the Wookiee. And I kind of
would have.
Either way.
Honestly, yeah. No, you know what? I like it.
Oh, we're going with it. Chewie.
I'm going to add a sound effect for myself.
I'm going to go Chewie. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be that, though.
How was it that everybody could understand? I mean, I get everybody could understand what Chewie was. I mean, well, not everybody, I guess.
Not everybody, yeah.
Han. Leia couldn't understand him or couldn't understand?
For like the majority of the three films, she couldn't understand a thing he said. I think in the sixth movie is when she started understanding him. Sure. It's like, I mean, you're around somebody along, you kind of learn their mannerisms and that kind of stuff.
How long do Wookiees live?
I think close to like 100 years, if I'm not mistaken. I mean,
because he's in the he's one of the few that's in the entire.
Yeah. Well,
I guess he appears, maybe not at the beginning, but
he appears, I think, in the first time in episode 3 during. Sorry, I'm getting in my nerd
zone, nerd alert,
nerd talking.
I brought it up. It's my fault.
Yeah, he appears in episode 3 and then goes through the final 6 and then actually ends up getting into the newer 3, which say what you want about those. Yeah.
The newer 3?
Yeah.
I thought The Force Awakens was really good.
I liked The Force Awakens. It's the other 2 that I question a little bit.
I liked, I mean, not like there's anything else to talk about. Let's talk about Star Wars. I mean, after all, we were talking movies with Chris Hand. I was a fan of, is it number 2 where Skywalker does the battle with Kylo Ren and he's not really there and you don't really realize that he's not really there until the end of the battle?
Yeah.
That's the second of the
sequels.
What is that? The Last Jedi was the last one. I get confused.
It's one of them.
Anyway, so I liked that.
I think it's The Last Jedi. Yeah.
Right, because in the end...
Because he's the last true Jedi because of... Anyway,
whatever. I like that fight. I thought it was great.
I think it was cool, too.
See you around, kid. That's what he says. See you around, kid.
Yeah.
And disappeared because he was just there to be the distraction so that they could...
Yeah, I think it's cool. The only frustration I have is that it's not true to the character of Luke Skywalker. And I can go on a whole tirade that will fit up the whole 3 hours of our show here.
Let's not do that.
But I won't.
Let's not do that. One way or the other, you're now Chewy. So I thought of a nickname for Jeff, who I have for some reason repeatedly referred to as Jeffrey.
I was going to say, is it efficient for Jeff Eddy?
No. Jeffrey is, I think I'm going to call him Toys R Us.
That's great. I really like that.
Because
of the giraffe.
The giraffe's name is Jeffrey, right?
It's like that. There are a lot of Jeffreys right now and circling in the news recently. You need to be very, very careful which one you go with. But I like that one.
I think I'm going with Toys R Us.
That one's good.
And Lindsay says Jeff the Chef. I mean, Lindsay, just because it rhymes doesn't mean that it's good. Come on now. Trevor says Star Trek is better than Star Wars. Prove me wrong. Smiley face.
That's why I don't pay attention to the super text line.
Once again, let's not make matters of taste matters of fact, which is what I was saying to Chris Hand earlier. I was trying to be respectful of his garbage take that Jaws is not a good movie, with the idea that I don't know that Chris Hand likes a lot of movies, but you know what, we could do kind of an offshoot of The Cross, and you know, Matt and Hand at the movies, Hand and Murphy at the movies, kind of like a Siskel and Ebert type of thing.
Yeah, I like that.
Where we review films and give our criticisms and our takes on the films. I like it.
I from what I've learned of Chris, he's not the biggest film buff.
I don't think he really likes movies.
I mean, I'd do it with you.
So I try not to get emotionally worked up when he has these garbage, god-awful takes like Jaws is a bad film. Which, I mean, empirically, it's just, I don't know. Once again, matter of taste, not a matter of fact. So you're entitled to your own take, even if it is garbage. We'll leave things at that. So back to my original point, the reason that I would say that I'm woefully unprepared for the opening segment of the show is because instead, after the cross, you know, Chris gathers up his things, moves aside. I put my things in place. I get everything ready to go. I get my screen pulled up on the screen here. I get my Super Talk television ready to go. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, anywhere you're watching. Thank you for doing that. Thank you to US Pest for assisting in bringing you Super Talk TV during these 3 hours. Thank you to F&M Bank for their chat feature on the US Pest Super Talk television side of things. I mean, all of that getting ready to go. And I spent the entire time talking movies with Chris Hand. I admitted to him that I've never seen the. This might annoy you, because I think, Chewy, you're a little bit of a nerd.
Lay it on me.
I've never seen any of the Lord of the Rings.
That's fine. You know what? That's fine. I'm gonna be honest. Ooh, and this might catch me in hot water.
Come on now, let's go. Let's do it.
I'm a big fan of fantasy movies like that in. Like old-timey knights, dragons, all that stuff. I play Dungeons & Dragons a lot. It's one of my favorite pastimes. I hang out with friends doing that. Lord of the Rings is a little long for me. And I love a lot of what goes on through those movies. But it's I don't know. I felt myself like checking my watch a little more often than I thought I would through some of the parts in that movie.
Yeah, see, I couldn't.
Or all of them.
One of the reasons that I had a hard time committing to even doing it is because I felt like I would have to watch the entirety of the trilogy, right?
Yeah.
And it
there's
was,
the director's
9
cut.
hours long or something along those lines?
Something like that,
ridiculous.
Yeah. And then there's the director's cut, which makes each movie like 4 hours, and it's
one of those intentional things. Like, I know people that, I will sit slack-jawed when people tell me that they've never watched a Harry Potter movie. But I understand why. If you've not been a fan of the books, if you didn't read the books, and you're willing to invest time to do, it's not an hour.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
It's the whole bit.
Yeah.
So I recently, speaking of that, and I don't have a lot of downtime to do these types of things anymore, but over the weekend, I committed to, I've been hit or miss on Curb Your Enthusiasm. You ever watch Curb Your Enthusiasm? You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. I've watched segments and bits on the social medias, and I've seen a couple like stray episodes, but I've never sat down and watched the show through its entirety.
I'm a huge fan of what I have seen. I'm a huge fan of Larry David. If you call my cell phone right now,
Is it the theme?
it's the theme to Curb Your Enthusiasm, because oftentimes I feel like Larry David. I'm standing in. If there were no social, civilized construct of how I am told I'm supposed to act in any given situation, which is what I believe Curb Your Enthusiasm is ultimately about, is deconstructing those social norms that we've come to accept, and Larry just plows right through there, and the consequences are what they are, and oftentimes it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. But I never watched it as a series. I've watched hit or miss episodes. And so I've probably in total seen maybe 10 or 20% of the episodes. And so now I've gone back and I started over the weekend and I'm watching them in order because they carry certain things through. The episodes stand alone, but they carry certain things through. I love Larry David. And I'm enjoying the Curb thing, man.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah.
What made you want to get into it this weekend? Like, did you just
because it's I saw an interview with him. I mean, it's over.
Oh yeah.
And they talked about how they culminated. And I've not seen the final season, but they talked about how they wrapped it up, and they kind of brought the whole relationship that Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David had to a conclusion.
That's cool.
By kind of tying it all together.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So started it, but I got to tell you, the older episodes, which were filmed in 2000, believe it or not, look very, very old.
Oh, I believe it.
And you can kind of see what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
He was trying to do like a shaky cam documentary type.
Mockumentary style kind of thing.
Right. It's less filmy and more video-ish.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what constituted my weekend. We also, I went out and about and got it around the state of Tennessee. If you catch me on social media, at Matt Murphy Show on Facebook or Twitter, the X Machine, you saw that I posted a couple of photos, and so many of you were just dead on it. I thought I was being slick. Hey, look at this photo. Where am I? And you just nailed it. Cedars of Lebanon, which is a fabulous state park if you've never been. More on that maybe coming up a little bit later on. All right, what's on the docket today? Enough pleasantries. It's episode 579 of the proceedings. It is LFT 87, baby. LFT stands for Locks for Trump. I made the commitment on March 1st that I would not cut my hair until we had a new president-elect. And if I needed one more reason to support Donald Trump in this presidential election, it's the fact that I want to cut my hair by November. And you should want me to as well. If you want to see how the Locks for Trump whatever we would want to call it, how Locks for Trump would be going, you can find us on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You put up a snazzy title for our episode today, 579?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, right on topic.
Why not?
Letting the long hair flow on Tuesday on the Matt Murphy Show.
There you go.
Yeah, keeping it right in that same little bubble there.
LFT 87, baby.
Yes, sir.
All right, so speaking of Donald Trump, we are wrapping up his trial today. There are closing arguments going on. It was a relaxing morning that I spent watching as hashtag never CNN. Don't watch this garbage network full of garbage people spewing garbage. Watching CNN not be able to help themselves. They are reportedly a news organization. And I understand because there are no cameras in the trial, they don't get what they want to get. But they are relating what is going on within the trial, within the courtroom, as it occurs, and listening in real time as these leftists, some of whom are set to moderate a debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump in a month, less than a month. Jake Tapper has been slated, along with, what's her name, Dana Bash, to be the moderator of a debate. This is an anti-Trump dude. If there's any question in your mind whether or not he has a modicum of objectivity in this regard, just watch some of his commentary from this morning or watch any of the commentary that he offers on a daily basis. It is just, well, don't watch. I'll watch so you don't have to, and I'll relate it to you on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk, okay? But listening in real time, none of these people are inside the courtroom. None of these people understand the tone or the context in which some of these statements are being made. But they're listening to snippets, or they're getting snippets from the courtroom, and they'll react, well, that's just a lie. The defense attorney in this case is being allowed to lie during closing arguments. Jake Tapper went on for almost an hour this morning about the lie that the defense attorney for Donald Trump told in the courtroom regarding the National Enquirer. Would you like to know what the lie was? The defense attorney argued that the National Enquirer does not have a level of circulation that would influence the 2016 election. Their circulation is about 350,000. The argument was that that amount of circulation and whatever residual media that the National Enquirer might have gotten would not, in effect, alter the outcome of the 2016 election cycle. That was the point being made by the defense attorney, which is fine to debate the point. It is an opinion more than a fact. But the prevailing opinion is that the National Enquirer did not have the ability to impact the election, so there was no catch and kill process that Donald Trump was engaging in with David Pecker. And Tapper goes on and on and on and on and on about how that's not true. Factually, that's not true. What do you mean factually that's not true? You're the go-to person to say that this will or will not influence the outcome of an election? What are you smoking, Tapper? In the meantime, the defense offering a robust argument that you cannot send someone to prison, you cannot convict someone based on the words of Michael Cohen. That is their closing argument, and it is the correct one. Michael Cohen not only is a known liar, not only has he been sent to prison because of his lies, he has lied repeatedly and changed his story repeatedly. And Donald Trump is set to face over 100 years possibly in prison over the lies of one dude that is a known liar on his word. I would like to believe that I live in a world. I would like to believe that I live in a world where there is 0.0 chance that Donald Trump is convicted. Sadly, we do not live in that world. I wonder where you feel like this is, if you've been following it. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number, 615-737-WWTN. You can also utilize the Members Nutrition Super Talk line. The text line is available, 615-737-9986. A couple of guests to tell you about today. Jay Town is a noted attorney. He was a part of Team Trump in the Northern District of Alabama as a DA. We'll talk to him about how he believes the trial has been going. Another of my legal correspondents by the name of Jay. He'll join us in the 2 o'clock hour. And the runner-up on the Libertarian Party ticket, you know, the Libertarian Party had their convention over the weekend, and I'm loath to say anything about it because you know me. I call myself a libertarian with a small L. That's what I am. I believe in the libertarian philosophy of government. I believe in government serving best. That serves only when absolutely necessary and leave it up to the people in the free market to do the rest. I believe in these concepts. I believe in Milton Friedman. Need I say more? There's a reason that over the 25 years that I have been on radio, I have made a point not to associate myself with the Libertarian Party. And I'm their boy if they could get their mess straight, but they can't. And they nominated a candidate for president of the United States that will ultimately help Donald Trump, and we're going to speak to the runner-up today. Libertarian presidential candidate Michael Rectenwald will be on with us at 1:05 this afternoon. He says that he believes the Libertarian Party's nomination of Chase Oliver will actually help former President Donald Trump, and he's not that big of a fan of Donald Trump. We'll get his take on his loss over the weekend and what it means for the presidential race November 5th of 2024 at 1:05 this afternoon. Your calls, as always, on this Tuesday edition. Happy to be with you. It's 12:23 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You know, I talk about locks for Trump. That's LFT 87 days of no haircut. Thank you to Donald Trump and in my support of Donald Trump for president of the United States. But also thank you to PAI Medical and the We Grow Hair folks. We Grow Hair and I got together some months ago they gave me an examination, Katie and Alex and the rest of the team over there at We Grow Hair, and they said, look, Murph, you're doing great for the age of 50. You've not seen any considerable loss, but we see some thinning of your hair up on the upper crown. Now, what does that mean? I learned from the PAI folks that it doesn't mean that you're losing hair never to grow again. Oftentimes, thinning hair is the result of the actual hair follicles getting smaller. So imagine, if you will, that your hair follicle is the size of your thumb, and then over time it becomes the size of a pencil, and over time it becomes, the width of a gym clip. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about thinning hair. And that creates those bald patches and those bald spots. At PAI, they have the multi-unit grafting procedure. It is trademarked, and it gives you more hair in one procedure than anywhere else on the market today. Plus, they have their incredible laser system. It is the FDA-approved laser treatment that I have done to make hair thicker and fuller and to prevent hair loss. I encourage you to ask about this when you make the call to We Grow Hair and the PAI Medical Group. 615-376-6010. 615-376-6010, or go to WeGrowHair.com. That's WeGrowHair.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. So I asked the question, and I'm getting a lot of answers on the membersnutrition.com super text line. And I'd love to hear from you either on the text line or on the phone. What do you expect? Closing arguments going on today. The basic closing argument from the defense is simple. You cannot base a guilty verdict on the word of Michael Cohen. If what you are doing is on his word, you can't do it because he's a known liar. What do you think is going to happen? 615-737-9986. 0152, Trump show trial ends with a hung jury. And that was the end from the beginning, period. 9710, I believe it's a hung jury. I have faith at least one person with an ounce of brains in their head. Either way, Trump wins. Pat says, the fix is in. Biden has his victory speech all ready to go. 7166, hung jury. Jason, I missed you guys yesterday. It made for a long workday without you. Well, come on, Jason, give us a day. Come on, man. You're a regular. You know how this works. We're here most of the time. I mean, we spend, a couple of days here and there. By the way, and Calvin, I want you to hang on because I don't want to rush you, and I've only got about a minute before I have to go to this bottom of the hour timeout. But one quick note, it was the Memorial Day weekend, and I talked about my experience at Arlington National Cemetery and the Girl at the Grave. It's a story that I tell every Memorial Day. It's been so impactful in my life. Every time I consider a veteran and a veteran's family, I consider the Girl at the Grave, a woman that I never spoke to and I never really met, but has had that level of impact on my life. And if you heard the story, you understand it. One thing that I would note, without getting into Biden's ridiculous shenanigans over the weekend, because they were just that. His West Point speech was absurd. I'll play the clip for you. He had a please clap moment over the weekend. If you ever have the opportunity to go to the tomb of the unknown soldiers, to do a little bit of research as to how all of that came about in the aftermath of World War I, and how it eventually became what it is. If you ever have the opportunity to watch the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers and understand the symbolism behind keeping watch over those who have kept watch over us, please do it. I've seen it probably 5 times, the changing of the guard. The process, the precision, and the solemn nature of the proceeding. And oftentimes you will have a group of 100 to sometimes it swells to several hundred people. And each time that I have been there, it has been deadly quiet as the changing of the guard happens, as the inspection occurs, and as the new watchman takes over. I was just reminded of it over the weekend. We keep a constant vigil over those who kept vigil over us. The Tomb of the Unknowns is quite something to see. All right, more on Trump. What do you think? The defense calls Michael Cohen's testimony lies, pure and simple. Their argument is that you cannot trust this guy. What do you believe will happen? At the beginning of this, I would have told you odds are guilty verdict. Maybe we get a hung jury. Now we've moved that to probably a hung jury. Maybe we get an acquittal. I don't know of anybody that thinks that there can be a guilty verdict with the lack of evidence in this case. What say you? We'll get your calls momentarily on Libertarian Lunchtime Hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
If I had $1 for every time I've had a listener tell me that I'm a big pain in the neck or even a pain in the tushy, I would have a lot of money. I would have a lot of cash. But every time I'm told this, Matt, you're a pain in my neck. Matt, you cause me pain in my side. I say, well, have you been to the Dr. Gill Center for back, neck, and chronic pain relief? Because they can help. As much as I cause the pain in your head or your neck or your back, I can assist you in alleviating said pain. Seriously, folks, if you have pain anywhere on your person, the Dr. Gill Center has a program of success for you to help alleviate that pain without having to continuously pop pills, without having to use needles and that type of thing to block the pain and without considering surgery. I mean, we're after the same thing, right? I mean, our bodies wear down over time, and they wear down in different places. So whether it's back or neck or hip or knee or elbow, anywhere on your person, the Dr. Gill Center can naturally alleviate the pain, get hydration, get relief where the pain happens without having to resort to these other methods. It's what they do. For 30 years, they've been helping people just like you. Make the call. Make the appointment today. 615-882-4838, 882-4838. I'm a spokesperson for the Dr. Gill Center. I'm also a client, and I can tell you with personal experience, it works. It's the Dr. Gill Center. Call today. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you until 3. We hand off to the drive at that time. Thank you for being with us on this Tuesday Feels Like Monday. Hope everyone had a safe and happy Memorial Day holiday. And I don't shy away from saying that. You should have a happy Memorial Day so long as you remember the reason that we have that extra day off, the somber nature of the holiday. It is our most solemn holiday in my experience. And we appreciate those who have served, and obviously we have the utmost respect to those who gave the ultimate sacrifice to our United States of America. Calvin wants to talk about Trump and what he thinks about the trials so far. Calvin, thank you for your call. How are you, sir?
Well, sure. All right. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing well. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, I just wanted to say, as far as this Trump trial case, I think it should end in a hung jury. But I'll tell you the truth. I don't have much confidence in that, Matt. I don't have much confidence in anything in this country right now. But I will tell you this from an average American who listens to people when they speak. It's been a lifelong thing of mine to listen to people. Now, what I get out of this is, as Trump says, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you. They just got to get me out of the way. We are coming to a time that you cannot open your mouth and disagree with the left. Because if they get away with this case, this is courtroom corruption at its finest. The message they are sending, this is coming from an average guy that can figure this out, is that they're sending a message that you do not screw with us. It's kind of like Chuck Schumer said about whoever he said it about. They got 6 ways before Sunday to take you out. They're sending a message that we can take you out in a courtroom with anything we can get up with to shut you up. What country do we live in if I cannot disagree with you? I don't know what this country's coming to, but people better get their heads after you-know-whats and get a freaking clue. And they better start listening to people who fact-check what it is that comes out. And they better get a clue because we're fixing to lose this country. We're fixing to lose, Matt.
No, I agree that so much, I don't want to suggest that the country is lost if the results in November are not in our favor. But here's my analysis. I do believe that if the reason behind why we lose are the same as 2020, then I'm fearful that we've lost the country. If we cannot depend on free and fair elections, if we cannot depend on everyone playing fairly with regard to our election processes, and if the media covers up for those who are playing unfairly, if the deep state is allowed to continue doing what they tried to do and what they accomplished in some ways in 2020, then I think we're screwed. I mean, I think we're hosed. Now, if we come out of this and sadly enough Americans are dumb enough to vote for Joe Biden in November or whomever the candidate might be, with everything that has gone on with regard to his presidency and the lawfare against Trump and the desire to create this third world banana republic type judicial system by which we jail our political adversaries, if I believe none of that's gone on and it's fairly contested, then that's a different matter. But I don't think that's the case. Now, more to your point, Calvin, the media, this is where we've gotten. The media is already telegraphing that if there is a hung jury, now imagine if you're on this jury and you don't believe that the state has proven its case, but you're not sequestered, so you're not living in a bubble. Imagine that you go into that jury room and you say, no, I'm not voting guilty because it's wrong and I don't believe in it. And the media has already telegraphed that they're going to dox these people, right? If there are holdouts, they are going to dox the holdouts on that jury. Watch when this happens. I'm predicting it to you. And they are trying to intimidate the jury by promising to out anyone who doesn't vote for guilt. That's how far we've gone.
Yeah, it's scary.
I mean, it is scary. It is scary when they're allowed to wink and nod and threaten the American people and threaten a jury with outing the jury if they don't vote in a manner consistent with their narratives or their beliefs. It's frightening.
Exactly. It is.
Great call, Calvin, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Larry's next in Clarksville with a thought on the Trump trial. Do you believe hung jury? Do you believe guilty verdict? Do you believe he will be acquitted of all charges? Larry, what do you think?
Well, just off topic for 1 second, when we have sitting members of Congress that don't know the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day, that's a sad state of affairs. But on the subject, this whole trial has been a sham trial. The judge should have been removed long ago. And there are 2 attorneys, in that jury box. I don't know that I can trust any one of those people.
I just have to trust. I mean, there's 2 attorneys, based on, we could probably extrapolate anything based on the characterizations and the biographies that we've seen, Larry. But all I can do is base my expectations on what I've seen presented in court. And I can't imagine that there are 12 people that would look at the evidence or lack thereof and determine as a group that Donald Trump is guilty of the crimes that they claim he committed. I just can't imagine that someone on that jury will not say, no, I'm not doing this.
Well, I'm hoping, Matt, and you're usually a whole lot more optimistic than me, and you're not always that optimistic. But,
well, I go back and forth. Larry, you listened to me from day one when I came on the air December 13th of 2021, right? I mean, you've been here for the entire time, and you've come to learn me. You've come to learn me.
Every day.
I fight
day.
I fight against my pessimism, and I swing back and forth between being optimistic about the future of this country based on the people like you that live here, the real America, versus the political operatives and the deep state that want to transform, as Barack Obama called it, the United States of America into the socialist states of America. And I go back and forth. I fight against my pessimism. I'm going to choose on this case, until proven otherwise, to believe that the jury's going to do the right thing. I'm going to choose to believe that.
Brother.
At least some of them. At least some of them.
I hope so, brother. I love your show.
Thanks,
like
man.
I said, I've been listening since day one. Thank you for what you guys do.
God bless you, Larry. Thank you, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Larry went through a bout of health issues, and I appreciate him being Larry, you are an all-day listener, and you're a core listener. We call you a P1 in the business, and I love you, and I thank you. 615-737-9986. Thoughts on the Trump trial from the membersnutrition.com super text line. Trust God, not man, says 7243. That's probably, no, it's not even probably. That's great advice. Mike says, I seriously doubt, considering TDS, that they will find 12 jurors willing to follow the law and acquit. I agree with you, Larry, or rather Mike, so far. I do believe it's likely that at least 2 will vote to acquit, thus hanging the jury. My question is, can they hold out facing the opposition in that room? Would not want to be in their position. No, I'm of two minds. I think it'll hang one way or the other, but I'm not so sure that it doesn't hang the other way. I'm not certain, and maybe we'll never find this out with any definitive proof. I think we'll find out, though. We'll find out the split of the jury, right? I believe that's true. Where if we come to a hung jury after several days of deliberation, we, just can't come to a verdict. We've hung. Look for a couple of things. One, look for how this judge attempts to put his thumb on the scale of justice with his ability to charge the jury. The judge has a tremendous ability to weight this case one way or the other. And Judge Juan Merchant is not going to play fair. He is going to tilt the scale in the prosecution's favor, as he has done at every stage of these proceedings. It gets me fired up how grossly this has been a miscarriage of justice, and how there are some media organizations that are treating this like it's just fine. Hashtag never CNN. What a group of there are a few bright spots in this garbage. This Ellie Honig guy is a fair analyst of the legal process. But other than that, the idea that Juan Merchant has been a neutral actor in any of this is absurd. And so I wouldn't expect any of that to continue. So when he charges the jury, whether it's today or tomorrow, and I bet you that he'll charge tomorrow, I think that they'll let the prosecution will deliver their closing arguments. Right now they're on a break. And once that starts, I think he'll probably charge the jury tomorrow and get the jury in a deliberation state. I don't believe that he'll be fair at all. But I am prone to believe that you might see more jurors than not vote to acquit. 7-5, 6-6, 8-4. I believe even 9-3. I think the holdouts will be on the side of guilty, not on the side of not guilty. 615-737. And by the way, a hung jury is a victory for Trump. No way this goes back to, I wouldn't think that they would try to retry this case before the election. This is the only one that's coming to trial before the election of the 4. This was the weakest of the 4 by any legal analysis. It is a Frankenstein's monster of a case that doesn't have a real crime committed here to make it a felony. We've gone over all of this ad nauseum, and I know some of you, as I call you P1s, are tired of hearing it. Don says, I'm a P1. You're absolutely a P1, Don. Wendy says, how do I get to P1 status? Just ask for it, and you're there, Wendy. Congratulations. You're a Murphy minion, a.k.a. a P1. All you Murphy minions, stand up and holla. David is next in Mount Juliet. Hello, David.
How you doing, Murph?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing all right, buddy. I got, I think these two attorneys that's on there, I believe that they're on there to help the prosecution, to help guide the others to a guilty verdict.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
I believe the two attorneys that's on there, I believe they're there to help guide the other jurors to a guilty verdict. I believe they're going to talk. They're there to talk them right into a guilty verdict. Somehow or another, saying, well, we're attorneys, trust us. We know what we're talking about. We see it all the time. This guy, what they presented is absolute, and this guy's guilty.
Well, if that's the case, then Team Trump allowed that to happen.
Well, yes and no. I mean, with that judge, there's nothing. I mean, you've seen how he is. He's been swaying the verdict. He's been swaying them the whole time their way.
Well, I mean, I understand, but David, are you suggesting that these are plants, or that you just think that they're predisposed to be against Trump?
I believe they're plants. I believe they're plants.
Well, I mean, you can believe anything you want. I mean, if you believe that they are plants, and that the prosecution in this case had the ability, with the approval of the judge, to get two plants on the jury in order to influence a guilty verdict, and they did so in full and plain sight of the defense team, and the defense team was unable to do anything about it, then, David, I mean, I'm not poo-pooing your suggestion. I'm just saying that we could just pack it up and go home. We're done. Why are we even talking about this if that's the level of subversion that they have committed in the judicial system in the United States of America?
And that's true. And I firmly believe that if the Democrats steal this one, and the people of the country don't stand up, you might as well just give them everything you got, all you need, down to your knee, and do what they tell you. Because they're absolutely, we're done. The people of this country is going to have to stand up and take this country back, just like our forefathers did when they kept us from being taken over by the British. I hate to say it, I don't want to see it, but I firmly believe that's going to be the case.
Well, David, I hope you're wrong. I mentioned those bouts of optimism versus pessimism, and I admit in my more pessimistic times, I fear that we have a chasm too great regarding the future of the United States of America, our past and our future, that we will never bring the two sides together again. We've not seen a chasm of thought and of concept and of idea and future along these lines since a time 10 or so years before the United States Civil War. The subject matter is very different, but the chasm perhaps is as large. 615-737-9986. More coming up in a moment. It's 12:52 on Super Talk. Hey, friends, when you're not listening to our full lineup of live and local conversations, starting with Mandis and me and Hand and Brian Wilson in the afternoons. I encourage you during those downtimes to listen to the Heartland Journal. They've got a podcast rolling, and Steve Abramowitz is great at what he does. He brings on artists and cultural touchstones, entertainers, sports figures, and, of course, they talk quite a bit about politics at Heartland Journal. Now, you can find them at heartlandjournal.com. You look them up, heartlandjournal.com. They have a newsletter there. They have a website, news and information that you don't get anywhere else. You can find at Heartland Journal. And then, of course, the ever-popular podcast, where you'll see Murphy's Law featured on a monthly basis. Occasionally, you hear Steve on our show as well. Share and share alike. We do that because I believe in promoting good journalism. I believe in promoting good conservative advocacy, and that's what he is at the Heartland Journal. Steve Abramowitz does a great job of that. He's a good man with a good newsletter and a good website, heartlandjournal.com. Find out more on his podcast when you go there, heartlandjournal.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, californiaclosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, californiaclosets.com.
Hold on. I think he's doctor, but... Winding down the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour, the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up next hour, the Libertarian Party held their convention over the weekend, and as the guy that calls myself a Libertarian with a small L regularly on this radio show, I thought it incumbent upon me to discuss it, and we'll do so with Michael Rectenwald, who lost his bid to become the Libertarian Party candidate for President of the United States. We'll talk to Mr. Rectenwald next on The Murphy Show.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. The White House has not said if Israel's deadly strike in Rafah has crossed the red line President Biden mentioned to avoid civilian casualties in Gaza's southernmost city. Israeli officials are facing international criticism and pressure, too.
It's not the first internal investigation Israel has launched into its actions in Gaza, but international patience is now growing thinner by the day. Israeli Defense Forces spokesman Daniel Hagari.
Our ammunition alone could not have ignited a fire of this size. Our investigation seeks to determine what may have caused such a large fire to ignite.
The Hamas-run health ministry says more than 4 dozen people were killed in their tents. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
The UN Security Council will hold an emergency meeting on that strike. Spain, Norway, and Ireland, meantime, have also formally recognized Palestine as a state. Closing arguments set to resume in the hush-money criminal trial of Donald Trump. Defense attorneys wrapped up accusing former Trump fixer Michael Cohen of being a liar. Trump is charged with falsifying documents to reimburse Cohen for payments made to Stormy Daniels to hide an alleged affair from voters ahead of the 2016 election. ABC's Aaron Kutursky says Trump was also back in court.
We've seen him throughout during the witness testimony close his eyes, either out of disinterest or perhaps defiance. Here he kept his arm on the chair next to him, looking over at Todd Blanche, his defense attorney, who largely had his back to Trump because he was speaking directly to the jury. But he appeared especially intent when Blanche was disparaging Michael Cohen's credibility.
Severe storm sweeping across parts of Dallas, Fort Worth area today. Residents warned to shelter in place due to winds topping 70 miles per hour. And cleanup continues following deadly storms in both Texas and parts of the South. Airlines also working to make up for the backlog of cancellations yesterday. You're listening to ABC News.
It can be hard to find someone that you trust when it comes to large home repairs like your air conditioner, but I have found that person in the form of Jeff Eddy at Efficient Heating and Cooling. If you've noticed that the AC is not performing as it should, it's time to call Jeff Eddy. I like to say if your AC is not ready, call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. It's hard to make these decisions because you get so many different voices, and oftentimes those voices are saying, replace it, replace it, replace it. Well, there comes a time when the AC needs replacing. Jeff Eddy's not going to tell you before that happens. In other words, he's going to get maximum life out of that unit. That saves you money. Now, when the time comes, they're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric, an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. They're ready to go to replace, and they can do so at your direction, but they're never going to do it before time. They'll save you money in the process. Plus, a maintenance call is never over $125 for Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling, no matter how many units you have at your residence. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling, call today, 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net. Here we are, and here we go. Hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. From noon until 3, every Monday through Friday, you find us. Well, not yesterday. Yesterday, a holiday. Thank you for indulging us. We're back in force today, monitoring the Trump trial in New York City. We'll continue to update you. The prosecution is set to deliver their closing arguments at any moment. Over the weekend, the Libertarian Party had their nominating convention, and in the 2024 presidential cycle, we saw the nomination of a gentleman by the name of Chase Oliver. That will now be the Libertarian Presidential Party candidate. A candidate on the ballot, Michael Rectenwald, would have been my preferred choice. Now, you guys know that I've for a long time called myself a small L libertarian, meaning that I do not belong nor affiliate with the Libertarian Party, but I do believe in the libertarian philosophy of government. And so I am drawn to watching the proceedings of the Libertarian Party convention. I was saddened to see this schism. There's always been a schism within the Libertarian Party. I mean, it goes without saying that it is the nature of the libertarian philosophy and ideology that we debate how far one goes in terms of government interaction or lack thereof. All of that to say, I was saddened to note that party candidate Michael Rectenwald failed in the, I believe, 7th ballot to secure the votes to become the Libertarian Party's nominee. And sadly, Chase Oliver will carry that banner. But that could be good things for Donald Trump. With all of that in mind, we welcome Michael Rectenwald to the program. He is a longtime professor and author and libertarian, and he joins us to discuss the proceedings over the weekend. Mr. Rectenwald, thank you for being with us. How are you, sir?
I'm okay. Thanks for having me back.
It has to sting. I understand that. I mean, going into the convention, is it fair to say that you were the leading candidate to become the Libertarian Party nominee?
Yes, it is, because I had the support of the biggest voting contingent, the Mises Caucus, that's M-I-S-E-S, named after the great Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises, free market economist from the Austrian school. And not only that, I won in the first 5 rounds of voting. I was in the clear lead the whole way through. And then at the last round, really the 6th round was the really determinative round. And something happened there. There was some backroom chicanery, and that's how it all went down.
So talk to us, for those who have not been observing the Libertarian Party of late. And I don't want to be dismissive of the impact of the Libertarian Party, far be it from me to do so, because I consider myself a son of the philosophy of government, right? Of the libertarian philosophy that, government serves best, that serves least, and only when absolutely necessary. That said, give us the state of the Libertarian Party right now, absent this vote over the weekend, and we'll get into that in a moment, but what would you consider the state of the party to be?
It's extremely divided, and I believe partially infiltrated by a kind of identity politics contingent, a kind of leftist movement that is very interested in so-called trans rights and LGBTQ agendas. That's what Chase Oliver represents. I don't believe in special rights for special groups. There are no extra rights. There's no such things as trans rights. Everybody has the same rights, and trans people have those rights too. But they want special considerations from the state. They are looking for federal government considerations and protections, and that makes no sense because, as I said, there's no special rights accorded to any particular identity categories, or there shouldn't be. And so what we're looking at in a party is there's one contingent, which is the Mises Caucus, which you might say is rather conservative. And I should say, it's conservative in the sense that they want to conserve the true meaning of libertarianism. It's the Ron Paul revolution is what the Mises Caucus represents.
Mm-hmm.
And that is getting the state out of our business, getting more liberty, personal liberty at the local level, and resisting federal impositions that are unconstitutional. So, excuse me, my voice is a little bit hoarse from a long weekend of yelling across a large convention floor.
No, I understand, of course.
But at the end of the day, what happened was one of the candidates who had promised to endorse me no less than 4 times and once suggested right before he stepped to the microphone to make a point of privilege that he would not endorse my opponent, whom I was leading by a substantial amount. Then 20 seconds later, he goes to the mic and not only endorses my opponent, but says he is going to be his VP. So that threw all of that guy's votes, Mike Chermaw, that's his name. His votes went to Chase Oliver because that's what his voters were intended to do. Now, he had only reached at the maximum after the elimination of many candidates. I think there were 8 or 9 candidates. He had only reached a total of 19% of the vote, but that was enough to tip the whole thing toward Chase Oliver and to take the 5 rounds that I had won and flush them. And so what we're left with is Chase Oliver and Mike Chermaw. Chase Oliver is a left-leaning libertarian of sorts whose idea of liberty is really about, like, do you have the liberty to change your sex? Sure, you have the liberty if you're stupid enough to think you can do that.
Well, let me pardon me for interrupting, Mr. Rectenwald, but let me do a little rundown. Because Oliver is, and I understand the Libertarian Party has different ideas about free trade, but Oliver's open borders, right?
Yes, he is. He calls it Ellis Island style immigration that he prefers, which means basically just having a port of entry and letting everybody in. But he's essentially open borders, and there's a contingent of the party that is open borders. They think wrongly, I believe, that the movement of goods and the movement of people are the same thing, and of course they're not.
Right.
Because goods, when they come into a country, have been invited by the buyers, whereas immigrants move of their own accord and oftentimes, especially now, are not invited to come. And likewise, they're brought into the country at a great cost to the taxpayers. And this is what I argued throughout the whole campaign. And for some reason, a contingent of the party cannot understand that taxpayers should have a right to determine who can come into the public property that they pay for. I don't understand why that's so difficult for these people to grasp, but it seems to be. There's a kind of virtue signaling that goes on within the Libertarian Party. And open borders is like a virtue signal that suggests let anybody in. But I've challenged them, how about into your living room? And they don't have an answer for that. In other words, they're willing to let them into your public space. They're not willing to let them into their own public space. They want to be so generous. Why don't they invite them in?
So I thought that I'm torn here as a small L libertarian, Michael, because I believe in the things that you have talked about for so many years. I've followed your career. I've read your work. But I'm almost in this moment in time, and I say this with all due respect to you, I'm almost happy that you didn't receive the nomination, because I think a lot of liberty-minded people would gravitate to you, and I think that would have culminated in the election potentially of Joe Biden. I know you hear this a lot. Do you agree with me that Chase Oliver is the better candidate for Donald Trump in terms of what his position on issues are and what that might mean for the vote in November?
Yes, I mean, that's exactly true. Here's the irony. This contingent of the party tried to paint me as a Trumpian, and that I was just going to smuggle Trumpian ideas into the party and effectively, and after being nominated, abdicate my nomination and then drop out and help throw the election to Trump. I had no intention of doing so, but here's the interesting thing, as you pointed out, that Chase Oliver will help Trump more than I would have ever helped Trump by a long shot. He will definitely draw votes from Biden, because there's a contingent of people that will go for this leftist left libertarianism, and that will siphon some votes away from Trump. Absolutely.
Michael Rectenwald is our guest. He was the runner-up for the Libertarian Party nomination for President of the United States of America over the weekend at the Libertarian Party convention, talking about he's smarting over that defeat, and rightly so. I think it was swiped away from him at the last minute, and he just described how. We're getting a lot of media reports, and I did not. I saw excerpts of the Trump speech. How do you believe the party received him, and what do you think went into his decision to speak before the party? Are you happy that he was there?
I think it was a great opportunity for the party to get attention, to get our platform out in the public discourse, and to advance the cause of liberty. If we could move Trump in a direction of liberty and he becomes president, then that would be a good thing. He promised to commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht, who's in prison for Silk Road, one of the main demands of the party towards Trump. And the way that he was received was a kind of exhibitionism of Trump derangement syndrome, and a one-upping of that every time we were asked to speak about Trump. After the three of us were, I was the straw poll winner in the debate. I was the hands-down winner in the, in the nomination speech. I've moved more people to their feet than anybody else by a long shot. I even had standing ovation for my video. But in any case, what they were doing was trying to show who was the most, who had the greatest symptoms of Trump derangement syndrome. And that was the display. It was ridiculous virtue signaling again. And I wouldn't go along with it. It was too ridiculous for words, because I don't think Trump is by any means like the worst president in American history, like these people seem to believe, having such a very abbreviated sense of history and an extreme myopic viewpoint.
Well, let's talk. I mean, you're the strong L libertarian. I'm the small L libertarian. But obviously, I have certain disagreements, but I appreciate the fact that Trump began the process of disentangling us from foreign engagement. I appreciate that he cut a line in the sand between human movement across the southern border and trade across the southern border. I can understand why we might have a concern about certain tariffs. And my major concern with Trump, as supportive as I am of him, but for our purposes today, would be his adding to the national debt. I believe the greatest existential crisis that faces the United States of America is the $34+ trillion in debt that we currently are. I sadly believe that Trump was a contributor to that, even the COVID notwithstanding. How do you respond to that? Do you agree with that analysis? And for libertarian-minded individuals, is there a way to support Trump with all of that in mind?
Well, let me just say this, is that before August of 2023, I was strictly a lowercase libertarian myself. I only joined the party in August, so it would have been interesting had I won. That means I would have swooped in and within 9 months captured the top nomination of the party. So I got to hand it to myself. I almost did that. In fact, it was well within my grasp. And that would have been a real boon to the party because, as it turns out, many of the libertarians in the party are not going to vote for Chase Oliver, and many, I've read, are going to vote for Trump. And that's what they get for having elected this guy, for having nominated this guy for their candidate. So I agree with you. And as to your analysis of Trump, I agree with it mostly. That's why I say he's not the worst libertarian president we've ever had, or the worst president from a libertarian perspective. I do believe that he did bring down regulations.
Yeah, deregulation was a huge part of his first year. Yeah,
there was a lot of deregulation, and I would be cutting all regulations, but that's just my view. We don't have to go into that. Also, I think you're right about the debt. That the CARES Act added $6 trillion to the national debt at least, and then there were other things as well. And I do think that he was attempting to eliminate foreign intervention and entanglements. And in fact, when he tried to bring troops home, his own generals betrayed him and kept them there. So we're talking about a mixed bag. I'm not going to say Trump is great, for libertarianism or for liberty, but he's not the worst thing that ever happened.
Well, and not to interrupt your answer here, but Michael, one of the big aspects to what he is doing, I don't know that his motivation is liberty and openness and civil liberties, but deconstructing or attempting to deconstruct some of the entanglements of the bureaucracy and the deep state, to include NSA, FBI, CIA, et cetera, and to push them into the open with regard to how many civil liberties they have chosen to violate of the American people over the years. I'm talking FISA warrants and these types of things. I think it's residually good for libertarianism.
Well, I'm not gonna argue against you on that, and I'm not gonna really take that view. I'm gonna remain neutral with reference to that, if you don't mind, because I want to protect the libertarian brand. Despite its having been tarnished this past weekend.
Let me ask you this with this in mind, and I understand that, you are fresh off of this, and you're very kind to agree to this interview today, because I know that it has to smart. But at the same time, Donald Trump said over the weekend that he would invite libertarians into his cabinet should he get reelected. If Mr. Rectenwald, he turned to you, would that be something that you would consider?
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
because why would it hurt to have a libertarian in his ear? How could that hurt America? If I could serve in that role, I would welcome it. I think that it's necessary to get someone with a real pure libertarian perspective into the cabinet or into some major office within the administration that could be a voice that would push the Overton window further towards liberty. That's the goal of my campaign. It wasn't to advance the Libertarian Party per se. The goal of the Libertarian Party, as I understand it, is to enhance and expand liberty. So in any way that I could help expand liberty, I will do it.
Well, we look forward to that. I look forward, maybe spending czar. Michael Rectenwald, spending czar in the new Trump administration.
I would take that. I would take that in a heartbeat.
I would love to see it. Well, thank you, Mr. Rectenwald, for being on with us, spending some time with us. We look forward to future conversations, and bless you. I appreciate you, and we'll talk again very soon.
Thanks so much for having me.
Take care. There's Michael Rectenwald, finishing runner-up in the Libertarian Party convention over the weekend. 124 on Super Talk. So there are now 2 locations to serve you with the Tennessee Men's Clinic. So there are no excuses, gentlemen. There is a place close to you that can help resolve the energy level problems that you've been having. Maybe you found that you aren't motivated to go to the gym anymore. Maybe you've lost some of that motivation slowly over time, or it just kind of fell off a cliff. Perhaps it's bedroom activity that has fallen off a cliff. Whatever your reason for stopping by the Tennessee Men's Clinic, if you're feeling low energy, low motivation or drive, it could be levels inside of your body that are easily checked. And then once they check these levels, be it T level or whatever it might be, they can prescribe and diagnose a plan of action that's going to help you get back to energy, get back to your life again. Most men who go through Tennessee Men's Clinic, their biggest complaint is that they didn't do it sooner, because it gets you back to life. It gets that energy level back to where you want it to be, and it can help you in your relationship, if you know what I'm saying, gentlemen. So do not delay. Call today at 615-208-9090, 208-9090. Schedule that appointment, 208-9090, or stop by online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. That's TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
You know, I'm doing kind of 2 things at once, maybe even 3 or 4. I'm monitoring social media platforms and monitoring the prosecution making their closing argument in Trump trial. You know, depending on how long this thing goes, the judge could choose to charge the jury like now. I doubt it. I think that will probably come tomorrow. Right now, what the judge is doing in this case, I mean, and it's hard to nail it down and analyze it third hand, because I'm not getting direct information from the courtroom. I'm getting information that is coming to someone else, and that information is coming to me. But some of the sources that I trust, like sources like Jonathan Turley, are indicating that the prosecution is beginning and telling the jury to tune out the noise, insisting that they have presented, quote, powerful evidence of the defendant's guilt, said that the sideshows of the defense are of no consequence, hitting arguments that it hid evidence and misrepresented telephone calls. And then the prosecution is denying, listen to this, the prosecution is denying that Stormy Daniels was trying to extort Trump. Well, then what was she trying to do? I mean, what is a more accurate description of what Stormy Daniels did? She was going to sell her story to other sources, and then when those resources dried up, she decided to sell her silence to Donald Trump. The prosecution is claiming that Stormy Daniels was trying to protect her family, which is stupid. They're also somehow portraying Stormy Daniels as a victim and virtuous in her demand for money, ignoring that the demand was for as much money as possible out of Donald Trump, and then arguing that David Pecker establishes a conspiracy of unlawful means to influence that election. So Pecker said he took no such action. He's the head of National Enquirer. And it's hard to see how a juror, and this is Turley's analysis, and I agree with it, would buy the argument that Daniels was out for anything but money. And then the prosecution said in their closing that some of her testimony was cringeworthy, but kind of rings true, like the testimony that you would expect people to remember, he said. We shall see. Just monitoring the case here. Let's see what Stuart has to say about it before we go to a break. Hey, Stuart, how are you?
Oh, pretty good. I think this whole thing is, naturally it's a sham. Not only that, I think the fix is in. I think what I don't understand is I used to be a police officer years ago, and every time they would send me a form to fill out for jury duty, they had that little question in there, check yes or no. Have you ever been involved in law enforcement? I check yes. Guess what? I wasn't allowed on the jury. How did two attorneys make it on this jury? That's what I like to know. I don't understand that.
Well, I don't believe, and I'm just answering as best I can. I'm not positioning myself either way on the matter. But being an attorney is not an automatic disqualifier for service as a juror. As a matter of fact, in most circumstances, I think, in the right circumstances, I think it could be advantageous. If we believe that an attorney understands the law, for example, Stuart, let's forget politics for a moment. Then if I don't believe that the prosecution has put the legal dots together to connect a crime, which they have not done, by the way, they are still yet in their closing argument to describe how this becomes a felony, right? And you understand this, and I understand it, and one would presume that an attorney, so unless they are completely biased for the defense, I would think, well, that's a good thing to have an attorney on the case because they've not met the burden of proof.
Yeah, but I bet you the odds of that are slim.
Well, I know. Well, you're right. Sadly, they're not just an attorney. Like, if I told you that we had an attorney from Knoxville or from Birmingham, Alabama, or even in Nashville, then that would be one thing. But an attorney from New York City.
Oh, Lord. Nah, but I tell you what, if they find him guilty, check all those jurors' bank accounts. Because the judge got $12 million through his daughter from the DNC. Come on. It's painted in bold letters on the walls that they're all on the take from the DNC. I just hope.
Well, the prosecutor in the case, and I know this is probably, and thank you, Stuart, for the call. This is probably bad radio that I'm keeping an eye on these closing arguments. I'm just so obsessed with them. I wish that we had cameras in the courtroom. I wish we had audio from the courtroom. But the prosecutor in his closing argument actually just said that you don't need Michael Cohen to prove this case. He said, I'm not asking you to feel bad for Michael Cohen. He made his bed, but you could hardly blame him for making money on the one thing he has left. I mean, so they're all but admitting that he's a liar that can't be trusted and saying you don't need Michael Cohen. Throw out Michael Cohen's testimony and you have zero ability to connect any of this to Donald Trump. Not that you really have that ability anyway. You have to believe Michael Cohen in order to find Donald Trump guilty. And who would believe Michael Cohen? Prosecutors are admitting that they don't have a case by saying you don't need Michael Cohen. It is absurd. Yet, here we are. I mean, the entire thing's absurd. It's 1:34 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Meantime, I had the Libertarian Party candidate runner-up on the show. Any thoughts on that guy? I mean, I don't know if you know Michael Rectenwald. I've known him from a distance for years. Seems like a pretty solid guy. Said that he would serve in the Trump administration. How about that? We'll be back in a moment. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for the Glock Store. It is finally here. The week is finally here. The big open house, the 4th annual open house is happening at the Glock Store this weekend starting at 10 a.m. I'll be there. Chris Hand will be there. Dan Mandis will be there, and we want to see you too. Now, we're just 3 reasons to be there. There are hundreds of reasons to be there, like Glocks on the shelf, like different other handguns on the shelf, accessories and ammo, and the incredible Shoot 270 shooting rooms, and the manufacturing division, and the food, and the beverage, and the camaraderie, and the Second Amendment, and all of that is culminating in one big day, the open house at the Glock Store. Now, you can come in and win prizes. They have a lot of prizes. I think every 30 minutes or so, they're giving privates away. Don't hold me to that figure, but I think that's right, every 30 minutes or so. You can find out more at glockstore.com. And this culminates in the big granddaddy of them all, the $1,700 custom-made Glock to be given away at the end of the day. And you don't have to be present. You just have to show up to register, and we want to see you. Starting at 10 a.m., Airlane Drive, just off of Elm Hill Pike. It's the Glock Store. Find out more at glockstore.com, and we'll see you Saturday morning at 10 a.m. at the Glock Store. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 141. Matt Murphy and you. Good afternoon. Monitoring the goings-on in New York City as best we can as closing arguments are going on in Trump trial. In the meantime, the weekend was ripe with audio selections regarding liberals responding in the way that liberals do. I'll share some of those with you in just a moment. These are some of the talking head shows. And Joe Biden spoke to West Point. We'll get into that in just a moment. I love this. You know, sometimes social media is a cesspool, particularly the X machine. The X machine is a horrible place full of horrible trolls and some non-people, and maybe a few folks. There are a couple of funny people on the X machine, but other than that, it's just a cesspool full of nonsense and grossness. And I love it there. And you can find me there at Matt Murphy Show. Follow me at Matt Murphy Show. At Matt Murphy Show. All one word. I might even follow you back. You got to be good enough to follow back, though. But I found this, and I reposted it a minute ago, from some rando who said that they're on a flight. They're getting on a flight, and they said, my seatmate on my flight is a 6-year-old little girl who started our trip by looking at me and randomly saying, or looking at me and saying, I'm going to talk to you randomly, so you need to be prepared, okay? Oh, that makes me giggle. Here's another thing that makes me giggle. So the Democrats, speaking of random, they just randomly decided to hold a press conference outside of the Trump courthouse in New York City. And here is, according to some on social media, to include RNC Research, and that's a good follow there if you're on the X machine, a Biden campaign spokesman told the assembled masses that they were not right outside of the courthouse because of the trial that's going on. Listen to this.
First of all, let me say this first and foremost. We're not here today because of what's going on over there. We're here today because you all are here. And so we are glad that you're all here this morning. We're here primarily because of the threat that Donald Trump poses to the United States of America and to our democracy.
Wait, so what? So we're not here because of the nonsense going on in the courthouse across the street. We're here because you're here. Well, they're here because of that. Here's the deal, folks. The Democrats don't really have original ideas anymore. They tear pages out of their old, worn-out playbook, accuse anyone and everyone opposing their political platforms of any ist you can manifest. Call them a racist, call them a sexist, call them a socialist, call them a bigot, call them a xenophobe, call them names. You are afraid of the other. I mean, all of this nonsense that they've been doing for the last 30 years. When that doesn't work, compare them to the Nazis. Compare whomever you're attacking to Adolf Hitler. Call them an authoritarian or a totalitarian dictator. Claim, despite the fact that the guy was president for 4 years and willingly gave it up, even with all of the shenanigans that went on in 2020, claim that if Donald Trump gets into office, did you see what Ken Burns said over the weekend? It's just more nonsense. Ken Burns was offering a speech over the weekend, and he ridiculously suggested that there would be no more elections and that we would lose the country as we know it if we allow Donald Trump to be elected president of the United States of America again. I thought I had the Ken Burns quote, and I don't believe I have it. I can pull it up for you, though. Ken Burns spoke over the weekend at a commencement address and, got political. And look, I've never thought that Ken Burns was middle of the road and certainly not a conservative. But one would have hoped that Ken Burns would have. I don't hope that entertainers are this or that. I just want them to entertain me or to educate me or to do whatever it is they're doing in a way that doesn't allow their subjectivity to creep into their work, especially when it comes from somebody like Ken Burns. I thought the Civil War was a tremendous documentary. I thought baseball was a tremendous documentary. I've not seen all of his work. I thought country music was an incredible documentary. And I've seen some of his other work. So I can appreciate the work, but also understand that the man himself is left of center. So I'm not necessarily looking for this from Ken Burns, but this is what we get.
Which brings me to a moment I've dreaded and forces me to suspend my long-standing attempt at neutrality. There is no real choice this November. There is only the perpetuation, however flawed and feeble you might perceive it, of our fragile 249-year-old experiment, or the entropy that will engulf and destroy us if we take the other route.
Okay, so with that statement, that's a highfalutin way of saying that if you vote for Donald Trump, that is a vote to end the democratic experiment that has been the United States of America and our representative republic. Who believes that? Do liberals really believe that? Do you think leftists believe that if you elect to Donald Trump, that he will declare himself an autocrat or a dictator, or he'll suspend the rules of democracy to the point that we no longer have a government? Because that is what an academic, and one would presume that Ken Burns would consider himself an academic. I mean, he's an accomplished guy. This is not a stupid person. How does he buy into this idea that somehow, I mean, even if Donald Trump wanted to, I don't know that he could, he would have to have the United States military on his side. I mean, if we want to engage in this ridiculous argument, and that's what it is, it's an absurd premise designed to scare the hell out of people because they know that they don't have anything to hang their hats on that Joe Biden's accomplished. He's not done anything. They tried to label it Bidenomics, and that came back to slap them on the tuchus. And now we're talking about Maganomics, not Bidenomics. They can't lie their way out of the grocery store. They can't lie their way off the gas station pump. No amount of lying on major mainstream media will work. And so they're left with this nonsense, the same garbage that they were promoting in 2016. They just going right back to the old playbook. He'll destroy democracy and it will cease to exist. You don't believe in the United States of America very much if you believe that Donald Trump can take it down. And Donald Trump couldn't take it down. So if I engaged in this ridiculous exercise, which I'm hesitant to do, but let's go there. You want to go there, Ken Burns? Let's go there. How does that happen? I mean, does anybody have any idea how that would happen? He's saying that if you vote, you don't have a choice. I'm just going to replay this. If you don't have a choice this year, because if you vote one way, then the fragility of the system that we've got continues. If you vote the other way, it's all over.
Neutrality. There is no real choice this November. There is only the perpetuation, however flawed and feeble you might perceive it, of our fragile 249-year-old experiment, or the entropy that will engulf and destroy us if we take the other route. When, as Mercy Otis Warren would say, the checks of conscience are thrown aside and a deformed picture of the soul is revealed. The presumptive Republican nominee is...
All right, before we get into the presumptive Republican nominee, he talks about the entropy that would then facilitate this fall of democracy. So a gradual decline into disorder is the definition of entropy. And you're saying the orderly transition of power would create a decline into disorder?
49-year-old experiment, or the entropy that will engulf and destroy us if we take the other route. When, as Mercy Otis Warren would say, the checks of conscience are thrown aside and a deformed picture of the soul is revealed.
Okay, so he's using really fancy language, but really what he just said is that if you see Donald Trump reelected, that you're going to see a fracturing of the system. Why would that occur? I would suggest to you that it would occur because liberals do not know how to lose. And if liberals lose, you're going to see the manifestation of liberal hatred and liberal anger rise up and bubble up in a way that we've never seen in this country before. Because they don't want to believe what is so. That the majority of the country does not buy in to their ists argument. They don't buy in to the idea that climate change is destroying the world and should be on the top of our priority list. They don't buy into all of these things. And I could go down the list, but I don't have time, as Mason just tells me, a.k.a. Chewy just tells me. I'll finish up the clip on the other side. It's the Matt Murphy Show. Your thoughts on it. Coming up in the 2 o'clock hour, J-Town will give our audience his analysis on exactly what's going down on Trump trial today as we continue on the Murphy Show on Super Talk. So, friends, I have a brand new client to tell you about on the Matt Murphy Radio Show. I'm so excited to introduce you to Rogers Mortgage Group, powered by Revolution Mortgage. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Rogers has over 20 years of mortgage lending experience right here in the Music City. He is relationship-based, and so his contacts are trusted within the community, from builders to real estate agents and so much more. Josh Rogers has sat down. I've sat down with him on a couple of occasions, and I was so impressed with his incredible knowledge, not of the mortgage industry so much, and he's got that, but also of the city of Nashville. He understands that inventory is low in Nashville for homes in the market right now, so if you are not ready with a loan before you find your dream home, you might never get that dream home. That's why Rogers Mortgage is here for you. From regular home loans to construction loans, they can help the self-employed or the business owner get the mortgage that they want, get the mortgage that they need. I want to make Rogers Mortgage Group a part of your process. I want you to make the call, and we can make it a yes. Don't guess. Make it a yes with Rogers Mortgage Group. So you go to the website, makeitayes.com. Just spell that word out. One word, makeitayes.com, to find out more about Josh and his team approach and what he is doing with Rogers Mortgage Group. It's just a beginning with this relationship, and I'm so proud to be associated with someone with such knowledge in the industry in the city of Nashville. Rogers Mortgage Group, powered by Revolution Mortgage. Go to makeitayes.com today. That's makeitayes.com.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionality, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, californiaclosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, californiaclosets.com.
Here's a first. Over on the Members Nutrition Super Text line, I was told that I just sounded like Marvin the Martian. On the regulator.
I was going to say, I think I know what you said that was a little close.
Anytime I try to do Marvin the Martian, I end up doing Kermit the. Oh, this is Kermit the Frog.
Hi ho there.
Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Yeah.
Oh, many songs about rainbows. What's on the other side? Mac Maury's got the newscast, and then I'll be back with some more talk or radio. I'm just going to perfect my Kermit impersonation and let Maury do the news, and we'll be back in a moment. J-Town coming up to analyze what's going on in New York City. Stand by.
Two o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 84 degrees, partly sunny in Music City. We've got a nice weather week after what was an iffy long weather weekend. Looks like we'll have highs in the mid-80s and sunny skies. Complete weather forecast coming up in just a few minutes. The state now beginning their closing statements in the Donald Trump hush money trial after the jury spent all morning hearing the former president's defense team's closing arguments. Olivia Rubin breaks down what lawyer Todd Blanche outlined this morning.
He said that there was no conspiracy, that there was no grand meeting to hatch that conspiracy, and that the three catch-and-kill instances that prosecutors say David Pecker and Donald Trump worked to buy to influence the 2016 election weren't really catch-and-kill at all, that the first story was untrue. The second one, the woman never wanted to go public at all, and the third one was already out there when they bought it.
Here in Tennessee, a patient at Vanderbilt University Medical Center was arrested yesterday after police say he exposed himself to a staff member and assaulted her. Robert Dotson, age 37, is charged with indecent exposure, assault on a medical employee, and false imprisonment. Police responded after a hospital staff member escorted Dotson into the bathroom so he could take a shower. Dotson shut the door, allegedly exposed himself to the employee, and tried to kiss her on the neck and then asked for sex. Dotson only let the woman go after someone else tried to come into the bathroom. Dotson remains jailed on a $4,000 bond. And then since it the third time in a month that a Vanderbilt University Medical Center employee has been assaulted on the hospital's campus there in Nashville. And the search widening for two inmates who broke out of a local jail in southeast Louisiana over the weekend. Jim Ryan says that escape came a day after two other prisoners made their own getaway from the same lockup.
Getting out of the Tangipahoa Parish Jail is as easy as forcing open a rusty fence and then going under a wall. Jerome McGee lives nearby and has seen plenty of escapes.
They really can't do their job. Not enough manpower over there.
Two inmates who escaped Saturday were later caught, but the two who got out Sunday, including a murder suspect, are still on the loose. McGee has bought a German Shepherd for protection.
It's a lot of concern that I have.
And that is the latest news. Weather's on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
What is going on? Welcome back. 206 Matt Murphy Show. Hour number 3 in progress right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Man, oh man, it's been a busy day. I've yet to get to most of what my plans were. We addressed a Trump trial in New York City. That's the biggest ongoing story, the biggest breaking news story of the day. We've talked about a number of other issues. I've yet to get to the Samuel Alito flag nonsense. What do I tell you when we discuss, for you longtime listeners, you newbies in the listening audience, listen up with special attention because you can learn something here right now. But the long-timers, the old school Murphy minions, they know this. What are the two biggest rules in dealing with Democrats? The two most important rules with dealing with Democrats or liberals or statists or whatever you want to call them. Number one, they think you're dumb. They think you're dumb. Which leads directly to number two. So they always overplay their hand. When they think they have a winning strategy, they overplay their winning strategy because they think you are dumb enough to believe what they do and what they say. Hence, you get the Ken Burns talking in a very lofty fashion about democracy and how if we vote for Donald Trump, it will be the end-all be-all on democracy. The final portion of that clip, before we introduce our next guest to the show, Ken Burns addressing, what is this, Brandeis University, I guess? And he's being called powerful and wise and emotional and true.
With him, you end up re-enslaved with an even bigger problem, a worse affliction and addiction, a bigger delusion, James Baldwin would say, the author and finisher of our national existence, our national suicide, as Mr. Lincoln prophesies. Do not be seduced by easy equalization. There is nothing equal about this equation. We are at an existential crossroads in our political and civic lives. This is a choice that could not be clearer.
Okay, so Ken Burns has prophesized, and he's a smart guy, right? That if you vote for Donald Trump, you're voting for the end of democracy. In the meantime, you see the political manipulation of the judicial system in real time before our very eyes in New York City. We've been talking about it quite a bit on our show over these many months. And to give us an analysis of it, we welcome back to the show. You know, when we turn to legal analysis, we oftentimes turn to J's. Hold on, I've got to sneeze, and I know it's coming. Pardon me. You didn't hear that, but I had to sneeze. When we turn to a legal analysis, we oftentimes turn to Jay's. Either our man on Fridays, Jay St. Clair, or this gentleman who is a former U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, serving in the Trump administration. He is a career prosecutor and a Marine. His name is Jay Town, and he joins us to offer his analysis as to what is happening in New York City. Jay, good to be back with you. Hello, how are you?
Good to see you. I hope everybody had a safe Memorial Day weekend. Like Tennessee, state of Alabama had some serious weather Sunday, so I hope everybody got through it okay.
Hope you're well. Hope you're safe and sound up in northern Alabama. Good to talk with you. I've listened to your analysis over these many months on the occasions that I am able with regard to the trial going on in New York City. But for those who have not kind of heard it synopsized by you, what do you make of the case itself? And I mean, I understand it's an unfair ask to ask you to kind of sum it all up in a minute or two, but just give us your summation of leading to these closing arguments and handing this off to the jury.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is a prosecution in search of a law that's been broken. It started with the object of the prosecution, and then they tried to wrap a story around anything that the man did that might possibly stick. And in this case, it's a false business records case. Now, tell me why the tile in the hotel suite of Donald Trump in 2006 with Stormy Daniels is important, or whether or not he used a condom, or whether or not he wore boxers or briefs. Tell me what that has to do with a false business records entry. Nothing. It's not relevant at all. In fact, there's a great deal of testimony in this case that Judge Merchan let in that was irrelevant, that he thought he'd be able to cure with an instruction The Harvey Weinstein ruling from the New York Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, which is their Supreme Court, came out right in the middle of the trial, basically overruling those convictions, very serious convictions, unlike Trump's case, and based on the same sort of evidentiary rulings that Mershon has made throughout this case. And so what the prosecution is trying to show is that these false business entries were made in order to conceal another crime, which was this conspiracy to influence the 2016 election by catching and killing stories. And again, they're trying to prove campaign finance laws were broken with nothing more than Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to them, right? And it's an outrage that this judge is going to allow the jury to decide if any laws were broken, which ones. They're not going to be the state didn't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that those other laws were broken, and the jury gets to pick which ones they think were broken. They don't even have to be unanimous as to which one. It was a tax law. I think it was a state election violation. I think it was federal. Oh, so you don't have to have a unanimous verdict in New York now. Is that what I come to understand our criminal justice system is boiled down to? Because the defendant is Donald Trump? It is, I've been a lawyer for 26 years, spent 22 years as a prosecutor at what some might consider a fairly high level, and I've never in my life seen a political prosecution like this. In fact, throughout my career, I resisted all of them, right? I mean, you don't make a decision based on the size of the fish that you might get, right? You base it on the proof. You base it on the elements of the crime and whether or not you can prove them beyond a reasonable doubt that defendant, that one right there, committed it. And if you can, then you go forward. Sometimes it's super unpopular. I've prosecuted members of law enforcement and gone forward with their prosecution, led the team, led the prosecution, whatever. I didn't want to do it, right? Because I love cops. I know that the immediate gut reaction of a cop is that guy probably didn't do anything wrong. Well, sure enough, a couple weeks later, they find out, well, man, not only did you do something wrong, but it was a lot worse than we thought it was. Okay, all right, I can live with that one. And so, look, whatever's going on inside of the Manhattan courthouse right now is still up to these 12 jurors to unanimously agree that, and I thought Todd Blanche hit so many home runs this morning as it relates to the elements. The prosecutor right now, so far, an hour into it, it's been horrible. What he's been drawing out. I'm assuming he's going to try to finish strong, but he started weak. But Blanche, especially on the false business record entries, right? One, they weren't false entries, and two, there's no evidence Trump directed the false entries if you believe they're false.
Well, I think we're finally, and I want you to speak to this too, Jay Town, our guest. Jay, we have yet to see the connective tissue between what are misdemeanors that have reached their statute of limitations, beyond the statute of limitations. You have to connect this with the commission of or the cover-up of a secondary crime in order to turn them into felonies. And we've discussed this for a long time on our show, that I have yet, and I've tried to follow it as closely as anybody, I've yet to see the prosecutors do this. It's fascinating to me that we can get to the closing arguments in a case and that we are left to assume what they are going to try to do in their closing arguments. And not just us, but the defense itself. And it seems to go against the premise that the defendant gets to face his accusers or her accusers, and the defense needs to know what crime they're being accused of committing. But it feels like at this point, the prosecution is finally tying those things together, and they're suggesting that the National Enquirer spiking the article, the catch and kill deal, is somehow federal election interference, and that creates the felony in this case. They're finally trying to put all that together. Speak to that. I mean, have you ever seen anything like a defendant not truly understanding the nature of the connection to the crime that they're being accused of committing until closing arguments?
No, and even then, I still don't know that it's entirely clear because nobody's been charged with a federal election crime here, right? In fact, the feds had plenty of opportunity to do it and refused to. The FEC refused to. In fact, Judge Merchan disallowed an expert on federal election campaign violations, a defense expert, who would have testified that, you know what, a NDA payment to Stormy Daniels is not a campaign contribution. And here's why. Here's what's important. Here's where I believe the jury is going to be instructed as follows. The state wanted the definition of a campaign contribution. If you want to believe, okay, well, tell me more about this federal election violation, because I think one happened. What's a campaign contribution? Because you have to have an illegal one of those in order for there to be a violation. The state wanted the definition to be if there is even a scintilla of a reason related to the campaign that a story was caught and killed, then that is a campaign contribution. Even this judge, right? This judge even said, yeah, no, that's not the law. The law is, and what the jury will be instructed, is that if the story or if the NDA or the payment or the money would have been paid even if he wasn't a candidate. So if there's any other reason, right, that's good enough. Now, remember, David Pecker at National Enquirer, he's been catching and killing stories for Trump for decades. Michael Cohen killed this story in 2011, right? And earlier in the year, in April, when they had an opportunity to kill it, they didn't. In April of 2016, it wasn't until, later on that Michael Cohen thought this might harm the president's chances and did it on his own. There's no straight line to Donald Trump and any sort of influence on the 2016 campaign unless you believe Michael Cohen. Now, here's the other thing, Matt, that's important. When you're a prosecutor, as I've always been, I've never been a defense lawyer. When you're building a case beyond reasonable doubt, you're essentially building a brick wall, right? Brick by brick by brick. And you have to build that complete wall or you will not prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. All the defense lawyer has to do is poke a hole in the wall, is knock a brick or two out. And for the last 6 weeks, the defense counsel had been taking a sledgehammer to that wall on every single witness. Almost every state witness has corroborated or exculpated, meaning given evidence that Trump wasn't guilty of the crimes of which he's been charged, as far as we can discern. And that includes Cohen, that includes David Pecker, Stormy Daniels, all of them. And so there's huge holes. Now this wall that the team in Manhattan has built, the mortar in between each brick, that's Michael Cohen's testimony holding it all together. Mm-hmm. You would have to believe, you'd have to swallow every word that Michael Cohen said as true. And I don't think 12 jurors can go back there and say, I believe every word. I think he's a reformed man.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Jay, but did you see where Steinglass argued that you don't have to believe, that they don't need Michael Cohen in order to secure a guilty verdict? He said that in the closing argument.
He did. He absolutely said. He said, I understand why he's angry, but forgot to mention that might be a motive to lie, as they caught him doing in court, not just years ago to Congress, but just 2 days prior about that October 24th phone call. He also said about that October 24th phone call, for instance, even if you don't believe that call was the call, as Cohen testified on his direct testimony, elicited by the state of New York, okay, even if you don't believe that was the call where he told Trump, he could have just misremembered the date. Except that on cross, Cohen doubled down. He said, well, we talked about both. Even though I didn't mention the 14-year-old pranker, right, the prankster that was bugging me, and I wanted the Secret Service to raid his house. I didn't mention that, but I wasn't asked about it either. And so that's not my fault. He doubled down that was the date. He didn't say, well, yeah, I don't know. Could have been any one of those phone calls to Trump or to Schiller in sometime in October. No, no, that was not the evidence. And so again, the state is left just commenting on false evidence that doesn't exist and wanting the jury to assume their theory without proof. which is why I think this jury is going to go back there and they're going to say the state has not. There's some of.
Well, hold on.
Right.
Before you make the prediction, let me take a quick timeout because I'm going to ask you on the other side. Jay Town is our guest. He is a former U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Alabama, appointed by Donald Trump, career prosecutor, and a great legal mind. And we'll ask Jay after the break what he expects the jury to do with this case, and are all things on the table. Could there be a guilty verdict? I don't see how, but we'll find out from the man himself, Jay Town, right after this on Super Talk. When you stop by the website, uspesta.com, that's uspesta.com, they say the protection begins with US Pest, and they're right. They also offer you an opportunity to get a free inspection for your home or your place of business. You'll receive a complimentary inspection and an estimate from a professional today. All you have to do to get started is go to uspest.com. There's a drop-down menu to select the reason why you're calling or why you're writing in, and the reasons will just creep you out. Yellow jackets, wasps, ticks, stink bugs, spiders, sawbugs, silverfish, scorpions, rodents, pill bugs, mosquitoes, millipedes, ladybugs, hornets, flies, and on it goes. I mean, pests are out there. They're insatiable. It ain't just about the cicadas, folks. It's about all of those pests that want inside of your home or on your property, and you want to keep them out to keep the health and security and safety of your family in good shape. Contact US Pest by going to uspest.com and mention my name when you give them a call to 615-590-1260. 615-590-1260. JK and Erica are great Americans, and they run a fabulous company here in Middle Tennessee. It's US Pest, uspest.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Filling us in on closing statements from the Donald Trump hush money trial, the Democratic Party trying to make sure that President Biden and Kamala Harris are on the ballot in all 50 states. 2:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Don't worry, McMorey. I mean, I'm not trying to ruin things for the people waiting for your news, but don't worry. Republicans will come to their salvation. They always do. They did in Alabama. and they will in other parts of the country. Not to bury the lead there or anything. It is 2:25, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you already on the show today. Michael Rectenwald, who is the runner-up for the Libertarian Party nomination for President of the United States of America, sharing with us how he believes the selection of his opponent, this Oliver fellow from over in Georgia, ensures that many libertarians will be voting for Donald Trump, actually helps Donald Trump in that regard. I believe that ultimately this trial from a political perspective has helped Donald Trump as well. I don't know. It shows, and Jay, I want to ask about your predictions in a moment, but this also, for me at least, has demonstrated to the American public the frailty of the judicial systems, especially with regard to how, when it is used for political purposes, how it's not a perfect system. Let's put it this way. A lot of my listeners have asked, well, why can't Trump do more about this naked political persecution? And I've suggested that, well, there's not a lot that they can do until appeal. So much of this will be resolved upon appeal. Even if he is found guilty, I have no, I can't believe that he'll ever actually be convicted when it goes to an appellate court. At the same time, that's not what this is all about. And that shows the naked politics of all of this. Would you agree?
Well, here's what I'll agree with you, because I have a slightly different take. So I agree that this case should never have been brought, and it was brought for political purpose. It was not brought because somebody was really convinced that they could prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt, or that it was a case worth prosecuting in their prosecutorial discretion. Neither of those things are true. So to the extent that those things create this sort of atmosphere of lawfare in Manhattan, I agree. But here's what I also think. This system, as awful as it's been for the former president, he's got all the 91 counts, right? He's got, 34 in Manhattan of those counts. I think he's going to walk out of that courtroom without a conviction. And so, might be a hung jury, might be an acquittal. But if it's a hung jury, Manhattan DA can run it back sometime, and it is what it is. I don't think the case gets any better for them. I mean, usually a case the second time around does get better for the state. I think in this case it actually is going to get worse because people like Stormy and Michael Cohen, they're going to have so many more things to say. And maybe we get, a real judge's ruling, because we can appeal some of these ridiculous jury instructions that Mershon is making. But that's besides the point. That's the system. And that's the imperfection of its perfection. It's the worst system, but for all the others. And I don't know how you could much improve it.
No, I mean, I agree with that totally.
Yeah.
I do think that the system itself was not set up under the idea that you accomplish the goals that you're trying to accomplish, regardless of an acquittal or a guilty verdict. You accomplish what you are trying to accomplish from a political perspective during the trial. Now, I don't think they've done that. I think it's actually, I think it is boomeranged on them quite a bit. They thought that this would hurt him. The process itself would hurt him a lot more than it actually has. So
you're 100% right.
I mean, I know that it's impossible. I've talked to our good friend Jay St. Clair enough about this, my great friend for the last 20 years, and he tells me that trying to anticipate what a jury will do is a fool's errand. But I will ask you, Jay, to try to anticipate what you think will happen once the judge charges the jury and they get this case.
Well, I'll kind of give you two answers. Very lawyerly of me, I know. But I think if a verdict comes back quickly, meaning by Thursday morning or sometime Thursday, I think it's an acquittal. Normally I'd say it's a conviction, but I don't believe that 12 people are going to agree to a conviction that quickly. I think they at least feel like they have this responsibility to talk it out unless they take a quick vote and everyone's like, eh. If it's Friday afternoon at 5:00 and Mershon's already 5 hours overdue to start his weekend based on his work schedule as we know it, then I think you're going to see a hung jury.
What do you put as a possibility of all 12 jurors convicting Donald Trump in this case?
It's less than 5%. I mean, it's never zero. Anybody that's been in my business will tell you it's never it's never 100% that I'm going to convict a guy. And so it's never 100% that there won't be an acquittal. But at the same time, I think it's less than 5%. I just cannot see. I think these people have been given license by their neighbors and friends and family and just their own common sense to say, I don't like Trump. I will never vote for him. Can't stand a guy. But the state didn't do its job. And they don't have to like Steinglass and Colangelo any more than they like Trump. They don't know him. And they certainly don't like Alvin Bragg because they see how their damn city's been run.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no love for Alvin Bragg here, our hero, in his 58 regular suit, right? The prosecutors, unlike Bragg's suits, prosecutors just don't have a lot of material here to argue, right? I can go on.
I love it. I love it.
Tip your waitresses, everyone. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. The comedy right at the end of the interview. J-Town, thank you so much for everything. We appreciate your commentary and your analysis. We'll talk again very soon.
All right. Thanks, man.
Take care. There's J-Town, who is a former prosecutor in the Northern District of Alabama under the Trump administration, sharing his thoughts on this case with us. It's time for news on Super Talk.
2:32, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 83 degrees on Music Row, and looks like we got a nice weather week ahead of us. We'll let you know about it. Full weather forecast on the way in 2 minutes. First off, Derek Dennis fills us in on the latest from closing statements at the Donald Trump hush money trial.
Back from lunch, it's now the prosecution's turn to present its closing arguments in former President Trump's New York City hush money trial. And right off the bat, Assistant District Attorney Josh Steinglass declared the prosecution has presented powerful evidence of the defendant's guilt and then admitted star witness porn actress Stormy Daniels' testimony was at times cringeworthy, but said the details she provided bolstered her credibility about the alleged sexual encounter between her and Trump and the $130,000 payoff she received to keep quiet. At the lunch break, Trump railed against the prosecution's other star witness, his former fixer, Michael Cohen.
If there was an MVP, if there was a GOAT of liars, it is Michael Cohen.
Defense attorney Todd Blanche coined that title for Cohen during his closing argument. Trump denies falsifying business records to cover up the Daniels payoff.
The Democratic Party will move to an earlier online version of the traditional roll call of the states to ensure Biden and Harris are on the ballot in all 50 states. Here's Stephen Portnoy.
The problem the party faces is in Ohio, which has an August 7th ballot access deadline. The Democrats hadn't planned on renominating Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to their ticket until the Chicago convention, which starts August 19th. Lawmakers in Ohio had been working toward a fix, but the DNC now says it aims to move to a virtual nomination process to avoid missing that Buckeye State deadline.
And that is the latest news. Weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Matt Murphy for Members Nutrition. I want to tell you about the Members Nutrition difference, and I want to encourage you to go over to the Members Nutrition website. Number one, they believe at Members Nutrition that they can sell vitamins and supplements at a lower cost point, and they're doing it every single day at membersnutrition.com. Number two, they want to make these products right here in the United States of America, not from some overseas company, and they do that every single day. I encourage you to go to membersnutrition.com. You'll get 50% off your purchase price at checkout. You don't have to put in any codes. Just go to membersnutrition.com. Once again, membersnutrition.com. Hey, friends, allow me a moment to talk to you about how you sleep. Are you sleeping well at night? Do you wake up rested? Or perhaps you wake up not feeling the energy that you once did. Did you know that it could be a result of sleep apnea? And I am one of the many people that was experiencing sleep apnea without significant snoring. Now, that is a relatively rare thing, but even if you don't snore, you could have sleep apnea, and that could be affecting your sleep. It could be affecting your energy levels, and it can cause health problems in your world. Things like diabetes, weight gain, acid reflux, high blood pressure, amongst other things, have been linked to sleep apnea. Now, if you don't know, you don't know, but the Dr. Paas Center for Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions is there for you. Dr. Poss consulted with me. I had a sleep test done. I went back to Dr. Poss and said, hey, look at this. My results indicate that I have sleep apnea, and he developed me an appliance. I never would have considered a CPAP machine. I don't believe that I could ever wear them. I'm intolerant. But with this appliance that goes into your mouth, it is so easy. You don't even notice that it's there, and it helps keep the airways open, and you breathe better, you sleep better, and you get a more restful night's sleep. That's what it's all about. Go to drposs.com. 2 locations to serve you, and they're in network with most insurance, so they cover what Dr. Poss provides you. drposs.com. That's drposs.com. For more information, tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Dr. Poss. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy here. I thought I had something else to talk about. Did I? What's going on there? Didn't I have a Tennessee Men's Clinic to talk about?
Not till after. Yeah, we're in our segment now. We're good. I just thought I'd start it off with a reference from the beginning of the show.
You're a good man.
Yeah.
I'm very confused.
That was the goal.
Well, hence the music, right? I'm confused. And when I'm confused, I get angry, much like Larry David. And Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm walking. If you missed the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour, I mentioned that I'm going through Curb, all 12 seasons in order, because I missed. I probably have only seen, I don't know, I've not seen a lot of the episodes, and so I've missed big swaths of it. And I missed the entire first 2 or 3 seasons, and so I've never gone back to catch up. So I'm going in order now, and I'm having a good time doing it. That's what I did for my Memorial Day holiday. In addition to, if you catch me on social media at Matt Murphy Show, you'll see that I posted up a photo of a place that I went during some of my holiday adventures. And I thought that it would be a difficult task for folks who know Tennessee to figure this out. I said, hey, where's Murphy? I took a picture of the Nashville Superspeedway, which obviously I know you know where that is, but then I took a picture of it. Did you see this on social media?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but I heard you chatting about it earlier in the show.
It was a specific enough place within a place that I thought it would be a little more difficult. And, I mean, people just destroyed it.
Nailed
They
it.
just nailed it. Cedars of Lebanon State Park, which, if you've never been, just a fun fact that I learned over the weekend, Lebanon was named Lebanon because of the Cedars of Lebanon.
Yeah.
Because it was believed that it reminded people back in the day of Lebanon. And those cedars, although the cedars are different, they cut all of those cedar trees down. All of them down, because they used them for construction of fencing and homes and all of that sort of thing. And in the 1930s, during the Great Depression, when works projects were being created in order to get people back to work, the government decided that it would be a good idea to replant all of that, which they did, and then created a state park as a result. And you have Cedars of Lebanon State Park. I encourage you, if you've never been, to go. It's a beautiful area of Tennessee.
It is very beautiful. I love it. I love it out there.
Very serene.
I did not know that they had taken all the trees. I knew they had used a majority of them for construction and whatnot. I didn't know that it was like an almost fully replanted area.
Yeah, they kind of recreated and replanted all of the cedar trees, which by extension you will not see a lot of really old growth.
Yeah,
because they use that for our own purposes. One way or the other, stories that I've not gotten to. I mean, there are a lot of them that I've not gotten to that I wanted to get to. I want to say real quick, I'll get to this Pierce story, which is just another embarrassment and just a microcosm of the Biden administration generally. But real quick, I'm a fan of golf. I play golf, and I watch a little bit of it on television, not as religiously as I used to during the Tiger Woods era. I mean, it was much-watched television when Tiger was on the course. I feel like Scotty Scheffler is maybe getting to that level where people anticipate that he's going to win if he's playing in a tournament. But beside that, if you did not see this over the weekend, a man by the name of Grayson Murray, who I could not have picked out of a lineup prior to this weekend, died over the weekend by suicide. Grayson Murray was a player on the PGA Tour, and he was a professional golfer and had gone through bouts of depression. But by any outward or exterior examination, Grayson Murray had everything that we could hope for in our own career paths, right? I mean, he showed aptitude and talent as a golfer. He pursued a professional career in golf. He got to the pinnacle of the professional golf world, the PGA Tour. He won twice on the PGA Tour. He won once this year. He won the Sony Open. And after winning the Sony Open, Grayson Murray in January spoke about turning corners in his life. He talked about his golf, and he talked about his battles with alcoholism and mental health. And in discussing those things, he said that he had finally gotten to a better place in his life with regard to his mental health and some of the struggles that he has with depression and other matters surrounding mental health. If you did not hear, he played on Thursday, played well. I think he shot a 68 on Thursday, which is pretty good. On Friday, the second day of the tournament, he withdrew after 16 holes. And his playing partner, I think the man's name is Peter Molinari. I happened to be watching on Saturday when Peter Molinari went on air. And this was before it was announced the cause of death, but we knew that Grayson Murray was dead. And Peter Molinari, who did not know him well, but played with him the last 2 days of his life on the course, just spoke about how hotly competitive their world is and how all of that just pales in comparison to the real world and what Grayson Murray was obviously dealing with. And in describing what he was trying to describe, and that is to help people, if you can, he broke down. I mean, absolutely broke down on the telecast in just tears over a man that he admittedly did not know very well, but recognizing the outward appearance that Grayson Murray was putting on versus whatever inner turmoil was going on, and recognizing that led him to withdraw from the tournament before finishing round number 2 and then taking his own life Friday night. It reminded me of, I've had a couple of friends in my life that have sadly died by suicide. And, you know, when you hear stories like this, it's human nature to reflect about what we could or could not have done to help those around us. All I would say is this, and I had a experience back in Birmingham where a friend and a former colleague of mine in radio, a man by the name of Lee Davis, a great man, took his own life. I think Lee was somewhere in his 50s. Took his own life, and I talked about it on air, and his wife was upset at me for talking about the issue, and I understand in her grief and her pain that she was upset about it. At the same time, my point in discussing this is not to highlight why or what issues individually would lead someone like Grayson Murray to take their own life. Because anytime you discuss suicide, it is a delicate discussion. But it is to promote the idea that you never know, despite outward appearances, what people might be going through inside. And I implore upon you, in the spirit of humanity, regardless of our political differences, regardless of whatever might pop up from day to day that we want to discuss or dissect or diagnose, as human beings, if you think that someone's in pain, reach out to them. Offer them a source of comfort and possibly offer them a lifeline. Because you never know what tomorrow might bring. Just wanted to bring that up. Speaking of that, sadly, I wanted to, I wrote down over the weekend that I thought it was 3 months in, time to offer a Sebastian Rogers update, and can't imagine what sort of grief the family members of Sebastian Rogers are going through if we understand the case to be what it is. Unfortunately, I don't know that we really know the true story of what happened to Sebastian Rogers, and probably won't until he is found. God willing, he is found alive. But as time moves on, and we've now reached the 3-month point, over 90 days have passed since he was last seen at his home in Sumner County. It doesn't look like there's been any advancement on the case beyond what the police say they know. Now, they probably wouldn't be telling us, even if they did know. But our thoughts go out to the Rogers family, and hopefully that case will be resolved in a positive fashion as well. Just two, sad notes as we make our way toward the end of the show. Hey, another sad issue, not nearly along those lines, but sad for the Biden administration, and it really has become almost a microcosm of the Biden administration, to say the least, is this debacle in Israel and on the Mediterranean Sea. I don't know if you've heard, but the announcement today that a part of President Joe Biden's Gaza aid pier is now just floating off into the Mediterranean Sea, which makes it a perfect symbol of his presidency. Just listlessly floating. Cost us $320 million of taxpayer money. And apparently that doesn't go as far as it used to, because the thing doesn't work and never has, and will not deliver one scintilla of aid to the Palestinian people. I'll describe some of this to you, and we'll talk with Brian Wilson in a moment, find out what's going on the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Stand by. Hey, friends, the Tennessee Men's Clinic has appointment availability for you right now in 2 locations. One's in Midtown Nashville. They've been there since 2014. The other in Cool Springs. For the last year or so, they've opened their office in Cool Springs. For those of you south of the city, maybe in Columbia or Franklin or Thompson Station, wherever you might be, if you're concerned with your energy levels, man, I mean, that's what it's all about. It's about normal daily activity and not becoming accustomed to not being able to do the things that you used to be able to do because, hey, Murph, that's just the way it is. I'm getting older. No, sir. Let's not think that way, and let's certainly not act in that fashion. Let's get to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Schedule an appointment. It's easy. It doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. You go in, they'll go over you from tip to stern. One of their qualified urologists will talk with you about why you're there, what your energy levels are, if it's manifesting itself, with outdoor activity or even in the bedroom. They'll talk with you about these things, and there's no shame in this game because half of the men listening to me right now will go through some part of this at some point in their lives. The question is, how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to deal with it proactively and overcome it? Or are you going to mope around and not address it or look away from it for the next 4 or 5 or whatever, how many years? Let's handle it by making the call and scheduling the appointment today. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com or 615-208-9090. 208-9090. It's Tennessee Men's Clinic.
Hey, it's Dan Mandis, and I am so glad that California Closets has fixed my closet catastrophe. After exact measuring and planning, they came over and got to work. Yeah, once it was all plotted out on their 3D CAD system, the pieces are measured, cut, and precisely installed into my space. It was clean, fast, and professional, and above all, my new closets look and function great. Now, this was my dormer, and now this is my new dormer thanks to California Closets. Look at all of this added space for shirts and shoes, you name it, and it is cut so precisely, simply amazing. And my old closet that has now been reborn as the ultimate in style and functionability, making the best use of the space that I had. They can work on just about anything: bedrooms, garages, home offices, closets, pantries, and so much more. Find them online, CaliforniaClosets.com, and see what they can do for you. You can schedule a free design consultation. Mention my name, CaliforniaClosets.com.
Winding down a Tuesday edition of the Matt Murphy Show, but never you fear. There's 4 more hours of live and local conversation on the way with Brian Wilson in the Drive. And I'm going to introduce Brian Wilson by introducing one of the wackier stories I've heard about locally in some time. And I am certain that Brian Wilson is aware of this story. But to share with the audience and to get Mr. Wilson's reaction, that's my goal. You ready, Brian? You ready for the story?
Ready. Hit me with it.
A man was arrested Sunday after police say, and this is very serious, sexual assault's nothing to laugh about, but it's the way that this happened and what he said that is somewhat comical. A man was arrested after police say he sexually assaulted a phlebotomist. Do you know what a phlebotomist is, Brian, off the top of your head?
I think it has something to do with blood.
Oh, very good. Way to go. Look at the big brain on Wilt. Drawing blood. Phlebotomist drawing blood. Travis Ford is charged with aggravated sexual battery. He was having his blood drawn at TriStar Skyline Medical Center when he lifted his hand and touched the female in a private area. Ford then immediately looked at the woman, and I don't mean to laugh because it's very serious, but he said, "Forgive me, for I have sinned." He later told the police that the Lord told him to do it and then retracted his statement and said it was simply an accident. You know, I think it's one thing to commit a sexual assault. I think it's another thing to blame the Lord on it. And this guy is going to spend some time in jail as a result of this case.
Yeah. And, you know, we've got some other, very serious assaults that have happened in Nashville lately.
Vanderbilt Medical, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We have like 3 in recent days.
Crazy.
And I think that goes back to, are we taking people who have, repeat offenses in this regard off the streets, which I think we should be doing.
Amen.
And if they go in, they don't spend much time behind bars before they're back out again. And I think that's part of the problem.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of mental instability going on as well. No mental instability this afternoon on the Drive. What is happening, my friend? Obviously we're all watching New York, yeah?
Yeah, listen, they're taking a break now. The prosecution has 3 hours to wrap it up before the deliberation begins. So they just have finished 1 hour, 2 hours to go. If they're wise, they won't use all 3 hours because the jury, I think, sent a message today saying that they want to stay late and work tonight, which says to me, we're anxious to get this thing over with. And we think, and I think maybe you could even draw the conclusion that they think maybe they know what the answer is in this particular case. That's sort of the way I would read it if I were a defense attorney. One way or the other, we'll be watching that all afternoon long. We'll be talking about the border situation and these really strange incursions that keep happening on military bases. We'll talk about that. And, of course, we'll have Woke World and details about a late-night visit that the current president made before he returned to Washington. Very, very interesting.
All coming up on the Drive. Brian Wilson is right after McMorray's newscast, and McMorray's newscast is happening right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Have a great afternoon, folks. Hug your loved ones. So long, everybody.